Hello everyone, this is the story of what if Naruto corrupted Kaguya'S godly innocence. Someone to care. Naruto meets Tatsu. It was a rainy day. Uzumaki Naruto, age 6, generally didn't like rainy days. They were wet, miserable and seemed to amplify his own distress. The one good thing about them though, was that almost no one was around to call him demon. Outside, he was free on rainy days. They were odd that way. However, this particular rainy day, he wasn't alone. A young man wearing a cape and coat the color of midnight walked down the rainy streets of Konohagakure no Sato. The way he was moving suggested that he had the world on his shoulders, and there didn't seem to be any way of removing this burden. Seeming not to really care on where he was going or doing, the man made his way over to the playground that Naruto was currently hiding in. The man sat down on a swing, idly beginning to swing, an unconscious action, preoccupied in thought. The constant swinging eventually lowered the man's hood. He was a fairly young man, with hair close cropped and the color of freshly fallen snow. His face, however, had lines weathered into it, as if he was much older than he appeared. He possessed eyes the color of gold, at a height of 6 feet even. The man continued to swing for several minutes, and Naruto began to relax under the tunnel slide again. Therefore, he was quite surprised when the man said, "Hey there." The man continued to swing. "Don't worry little one, I won't bite, just passing by," he said in a morose fashion. "Where are your parents? They're probably worried about you." Surprised that this man didn't send a harsh glare or word his way, Naruto looked amazed, then somewhat sad. "I don't have any ni-san. No one wants me. Everyone in this village thinks I shouldn't live and call me demon." The man's expression didn't change. "That's rather odd. I've fought dozens of demons in my time. You don't feel like one at all." These words, while almost inconsequential to the man, had a powerful effect on young Naruto. His eyes began to water, and he began crying, so happy that someone acknowledged him for the first time. Still crying, he ran into and tackled the man out of his swing. The man lay dumbfounded, with the still crying boy clutched onto him. Hey, don't cry little one. You'll get me wet," the man stated awkwardly, sniffing. Naruto smiled. "Gomen ne, ni-san. I'm just happy, that's all." He let go of the traveler. "Thanks for making me feel better." And Naruto's smile, a true smile, could have warmed even the coldest of hearts. The man gave a wan smile in return and returned to the swing, not noticing that the rain was beginning to lessen. Naruto, wanting to help this man, joined him on the other. "Nay, ni-san, why are you so sad?" Naruto asked tentatively. The man became morose again at this. "It's because I've lost my friends. And every time I try to make new friends wherever I go I fail at it. I miss having friends. That's why I'm sad. You know ni-san, I'll be your friend." His eyes widening, the man looked towards the outstretched hand that little Naruto offered him. Tentatively, he grasped the hand. "You would be my friend. Just like that. I didn't think friendship worked like that." Naruto furrowed his brow. "I wouldn't know, but I want to be your friend, so that's that." He pouted. "Besides, I thought you've had friends before. It's been a very long time since I've seen them little one. I've almost forgotten everything about friendship. However, I am glad to be your friend. Thank you." The man gave Naruto a real smile this time, and both could feel warmth from their feelings. The man shook Naruto's hand. "I'm Muhi Tatsu. Pleased to meet you, Uzumaki Naruto." "Same here, Tatsu Nichan." As the two shook warmly, neither of them seemed to notice that the rain had stopped, the sun coming out to welcome a new beginning. 5 years later, it had been 5 years ever since Muhi Tatsu and Uzumaki Naruto had met each other, and this day was to symbol a new beginning. Naruto hadn't been seen in Konoha for that time at all, and it seemed as if only Saw. Amy Hokage knew what had happened to the boy. Whenever pressed about where the boy had gone, either from the council or various villagers, he only responded, "Naruto is in a place where he is loved, and can gain strength in body and mind." This cryptic answer only raised more questions, but since Naruto hadn't technically been a ninja when he had left, he couldn't be declared a missing ninja. Hyuga Hinata seemed especially strange, as she had a knowing look in her eyes whenever the boy was mentioned, even though almost nobody noticed. 5 years had passed since then, and no Konohagaku. Ri no Sato was in for a bit of a surprise. A boy was returning to Konoha for the first time in what seemed like a lifetime. Towards the central Hokage tower the boy strode, with an aura of both confidence, dense and strength as he went forward with a calm smile upon his face. He was tall enough that most people would have considered him 14, even though many would be surprised to learn he was only 11. Wearing aviator sunglasses, the boy possessed long blonde hair that reached down to his shoulders, with bangs in front. Many curious onlookers swore that they were seeing Yondaime Hokage again, even though they knew that such a thing was impossible. He wore a loose leather jacket, a small black shirt, and loose jean pants. To top it off, he wore a pair of tight-fitting sandals. Most curious to those who knew him, however, was that Uzumaki Naruto did not have his whiskers. Finally reaching the Hokage tower, Naruto walked to a pair of curious guards and raised a palm. After a few seconds, the eyes of the guards appeared to glaze over and they appeared to be in a trance. Walking in, to an onlooker, Naruto would have appeared to have disappeared. Meanwhile, Sandaime Hokage was experiencing a very stressful day or a bad case of early senility. His grandson had tried to attack him 20 times that day. Nara Shikamaru had to be taken to the hospital for a case of exhaustion, meaning he was so lazy that the medic nins had to have Shikamaru go through physical therapy. And finally, it looked as if there were only 8 genin in the academy who had the potential to pass their sensei's tests. And he knew this, because Sandaime had his all-seeing crystal ball. Tired Oji-san? Well, I suppose that's to be expected at your age. Giving a start, Sandaime quickly turned towards the source of the voice with kunai in hand, years of experience taking over. Whoever spoke ducked, yelping in surprise. Gee, that's a fine hello for someone you haven't seen in 5 years. Sandaime calmed down and stared with surprise at the person he had caught. Naruto, you've come back. The old man let out a beaming smile. Oh, it's great to see you. Sarutobi paused. Wait, why are you here? I thought you were going away forever. Naruto let out a tiny sigh. Well, I kinda still want to be Hokage Oji-san. Can't do that without becoming a ninja, can I? But, what about your Tatsu-sensei didn't want me to at first, but he realizes how important it is to me. He says as long as I visit him occasionally, it's okay. Naruto answered. Did I make it in time to go to the academy? I know some things, but I still need to learn how to be a ninja. He smiled sheepishly. Sandaime gave a chuckle. Yes, of course. The ninja academy starts tomorrow, so get ready, okay? Hi, Oji-san. I'll be there. Datbeo. Sandaime smiled, a bit of the previous stress he had felt melting away. Then something occurred to him. Naruto, wait just a minute. How was it that you got past my guards? Naruto shrugged. It's not my fault your guards need more training to fight illusions of the mind. Or whatever you call them around here. Naruto continued to walk out, Sandaime still trying to understand whether Naruto meant he had somehow learned amazing genjutsu, or something he had yet to understand. For the next year or so, Uzumaki Naruto had worked in the ninja arcade. To learn ninja stuff, as he called it. In practical exercises, he learned at a frightening pace. While most children placed in the academy learned how to use chakra at a pace of around 4 months to a year depending on the child, Naruto learned how to use it within a month. When questioned on this ability, Naruto remarked that he had already had training in a similar ability, though when pressed, no answers were forthcoming. However, the fact remained that Naruto was simply amazing. Naruto had learned Henge no Jutsu and Kawarimi no Jutsu in mere weeks. His taijutsu abilities, while not the strongest or fastest, were still made up of movements that wasted nothing and were incredibly efficient. Naruto also used the academy library periodically, reading books usually having to do with Konoha history and the people in said village. That being said, Naruto did have one weakness. His ninjutsu needed quite a bit of work, as after 2 straight months of trying, he still hadn't perfected Bushin no Jutsu. After meditating on the problem, and weirdly, he had stayed like this for an entire day without pause, and speaking with his somewhat unhelpful teachers, although a quick wave of tea. He had solved the problem of irrational hatred he had sensed with Mizuki, and helped Iruka come to his senses regarding something, Although Naruto didn't know what, he had learned that the problem was chakra control. It was in trying to find help with this particular problem that the normally quiet and reserved Genin made his first friend. Sakura-san, may I walk with you for a moment? Street. Out of her Sasuke-induced daydream, Haruno Sakura shook her in and glanced in surprise at the boy now speaking to her. Uzumaki Naruto rarely if ever spoke, and even then, he had never spoken to his peers. She thought he was nice. In a way, she quickly nodded to his question. Class had just let out, so they began to walk outside. Yes, what do you want, Naruto-san? Well, Naruto fidgeted nervously. I was wondering if you could tutor me in chakra control. The books I have read on the subject don't explain it the same way a person would, and I would appreciate your input in the methods I have been practicing. Sakura raised an eyebrow. The boy who was tying for number 1 in class with Sasuke was asking her for help. Still, it was rather flattering. Maybe, she drawled, but I want something in return. Oh, what would that be? Naruto asked somewhat nervously. She gave him a smirk. I want you to help me out regarding Sasuke-kun. Something that'll help me with him. You're almost as strong as he is, maybe more. So you would know how strong guys feel about things. Naruto raised an eyebrow. So, I just want to be clear about this. You want me to help you in regards to Uchiha-san and how you feel about him. Sakura gave a nod. All right then, let me get a scroll. After about a half hour of writing out the contract, Tatsu-sensei had told him that with contracts, one always needed to make them without a concrete meaning so that they could always work to your advantage. Sakura signed the contract first. Then, to show his promise, Naruto signed said contract in blood after biting his thumb. Naruto, you didn't have to go that far. Yes, I did. Tatsu-sensei always says that one of the best ways to make friends is to show them that you can depend on them. Sakura's eyes widened. You want to be my friend? Naruto gave a sad smile. Sakura-san, I want to be a friend of everyone. I just don't know how. Sakura gave a somewhat sad smile back. Then, she changed it to beaming and let out her hand. I'm Haruno Sakura. Wanna be friends? And with that, Naruto's own smile could have melted any cold that came his way. For the next 2 months, Sakura helped Naruto with his chakra control. And he actually managed to help her improve somewhat as well. He had come across several methods of not only improving control, but also increasing one's chakra R.E. serves and ways of manipulating one's chakra. The control methods mainly consisted of the infamous tree climbing and water walking methods that were popular amongst Genin to Chunin level shinobi within Konoha. They both had spent just about a week perfecting the tree climbing, to master the water walk, mainly because Sakura had used the method to build up her chakra reserves. After this, Sakura's Sasuke obsession, while still strong, had somewhat dwindled. She had confessed to Naruto that she felt somewhat inadequate having not come from ninja clans like nearly everyone of her classmates, and wished that she could have her own style. After hearing this, Naruto asked a question that in a way, rocked her world. If your control is so good, why don't you just use chakra itself for a style? After hearing this, Sakura spent a sleepless night thinking of what Naruto had meant. While taking a bath in the Furoba, Sakura began to notice how the water shaped and reshaped itself constantly, rearranging itself into different sizes and lengths. It was then that she felt a sharp jolt of surprise, an epiphany finally coming to her. Running out to one of the many spare training areas, Haruno Sakura, the ever-studious and smart kunoichi, had skipped a day of class. She had become so excited. After a few hours, one could see her begin to concentrate and chakra began to slowly extend out of her palm. Eyes closed, she formed the chakra into a long, slim, pointed shape. She then drew back her hand and with a yell, thrust the chakra into a nearby log. A loud whump sounded, and the chakra dispelled. A drop of sweat came down from Sakura's forehead and she glanced at the log. A small but long hole extended all the way through the hard log. Sakura gave a loud squeal of pleasure. Yada, chakra spear, success. And so Sakura became indebted, in mind at least, to Naruto, and knew she had finally found someone she could depend on. She had found her niche, and she had him to thank. After the hug she had surprised him with, pouncing onto his back, and thanking him profusely, he simply smiled. I may have steered you in the right direction, but you did the work, the thinking, and how to shape the chakra. You had the talent, Sakura-san. You should thank yourself. With this, Sakura just hugged him even more tightly, and a Naruto turning blue hurriedly tried to find some way of breathing without offending his friend. Finally, the day had come. After 2 months of training and aiding the other, Naruto and Sakura had become firm friends. However, Sakura still was crushing on Sasuke, thinking that it might be even easier to gain his love due to her increased ability. She had begun working on variants of the chakra weapons technique and was feeling more confident in her abilities. As she became more and more amazed at what she was beginning to accomplish, she explained her surprise to her friend. Naruto had just smiled. It's no surprise to me that you've come into your own, Sakura-san. Your name has always implied that you would blossom into a beautiful flower. For some reason, this made Sakura not only blush, but her heart began to beat just a tiny bit faster. But back to the matter at hand. Naruto was preparing to make good on his end of their deal, and even Sakura, with her extensive knowledge of how energy-like chakra worked, was stumped. Naruto was in a classic meditation position, sitting with his legs crossed and his hands on his knees with his eyes closed. He pressed his palms together, and a powerful white aura began to emerge from him. The aura grew in intensity, twisting and writhing in power, and Naruto slowly stood up, gradually moving towards Sakura. Sakura-san, please close your eyes. After 2 months of working with him, Sakura had learned to trust her friend and complied. Ever so slowly, the faint wisps of white energy that had continually wafted into the air before began to dissipate. Extending his palms forward, one could see the energy had surrounded Naruto's palms in a sort of ethereal, golden glow. Before he finished, Naruto whispered almost imperceptibly, "Forgive me, Sakura-san. You may think at first that this is a curse. But believe me, it's a blessing." Naruto then finished and brought his palms to Sakura's forehead. The glow began to trail down her body, and she began to feel somewhat warm. As the glow completed going its way all across Sakura's body, she let out a gasp and passed out. Sakura blossoms. Naruto. Student teacher. Haruno. Sakura slowly began to become conscious. She unconsciously felt that she was not in the training area she and Naruto had been in, but rather, was covered and laid down in her soft, comfy bed. Feeling the bit of anxiousness we all feel in the morning when we realize that we cannot stay asleep any longer, or keep trying, but find that it doesn't work, she began to slowly open her eyes. While everything before her started as a blur, she blinked once or twice, and things became clear. Very clear. For no apparent reason, her mind had never felt as peaceful as it did right then. Naruto. Yes, he had done something to her, but she knew he had a good explanation for it. After all, he had made Sakura feel so free. No worry about going to the academy today, it was a Sunday. Wonder how Sasuke was. And then Sakura thought, well, how about Sasuke? She had laid back down on the bed, her eyes idly staring at her white ceiling. Sasuke. Well, he was good looking, sure. A good shinobi most likely. Has the emotions of a tapeworm though. Sakura then gasped. Was she really thinking about Sasuke in such a way? Yes. The more she thought about this, the more her mind sped up. Is Sasuke a nice guy? Not really. Does he ever just try to be nice? Not that I've seen. Does he ever talk with anyone in a tone other than annoyed? No. Does he seem arrogant? Why is he so closed off? Is he really worth all this hassle? Can you ever reach him? Do you really love him? Or is it just infatuation? That thought cut deep. With that, Sakura finally realized what her mind and her heart had been trying to tell her, constantly battled by hormones. Her peers and a desire to be seen as someone who had something worthy. She had never been in love with Sasuke, just the idea she had had of him. I wanted to prove myself. I wanted to show that I was strong. Stronger than those girls who had bullied me, stronger than Ino who had to save me. But, that's not really being strong. That's just being arrogant and selfish. Even if I spent a decade trying to get Sasuke. Would they even care anymore? Would I? Continuing to think, Sakura idly thought of Naruto again. He had said this might have been a curse or a blessing. In a way, it was both. She was quite angry with him for doing such a thing even though she had never asked for it. She had never shown Naruto what her inner Sakura could do, but she felt it was just punishment for such a thing. However, he had helped her. Their contract didn't specify how exactly the blonde was supposed to help her, just that it did. It was a good lesson, in a way, especially for Shinobi. Naruto also didn't seem like the type of person who would willingly hurt her. He was shy, serious, and a much sweeter guy than she had thought possible. He had helped her get stronger, and was able to cater to her training needs in a way much better than those at the academy. Feeling this immense train of thought begin to wear off, Sakura began to wonder especially about this infamous Tatsu Naruto was always talking about. Tatsu-sensei says to always be nice when you meet a person, even if they seem disconcerting. Tatsu-sensei told me always to be nice to pretty girls. Tatsu-sensei made me who I am. She had no idea who this Tatsu was, as he was certainly no shinobi, as Naruto had told her, but from Naruto's descriptions of the man, she always pictured him as a wise old sage, deep in some mountain. Briefly, she entertained thoughts of Naruto being raised in a monastery and meditating bald. She stifled her giggles, and decided enough was enough. Especially when her rumbling stomach reminded her that it was time for breakfast. After eating quite a good deal more than she usually had for breakfast, Sakura had finally realized that she could use more energy if she was to take training more seriously. Sakura began to look for Naruto. She didn't know exactly where he lived, but it was somewhere near the east side of town she had heard. However, after a long time searching, Sakura found that Naruto was nowhere in the city itself, so of course he was at their training ground. Indeed, Naruto stood leaning against a wooden pole. Rather than his normally calm smile, however, he looked rather forlorn and sad. Sakura came forward, confused. Naruto. Hi, Sakura-san. I'm sorry. Naruto let out tearfully, eyes widening in surprise. Sakura gaped while Naruto went on. I had no right to tamper with your mind, even if it was to help. You're my first and best friend. He continued to rant and rave until finally, Sakura lost her temper and let out a little bit of inner Sakura. Get a hold of yourself, Shanaru. This punch apparently was enough to get Naruto out of his self-pity, and he became even more surprised when Sakura gave him a tight hug. Next time you want to help with something, just ask me, okay? Sure. Feeling quite liberated, both at realizing that she had become stronger, and that her friend was feeling better, Sakura was hit with determination. Naruto-kun, can you think of anything else to help us become stronger? She asked. Naruto smiled. As a matter of fact, although Naruto and Sakura had by this point already passed the requirements to become genin, they continued to train diligently. Naruto's chakra control improved a great deal, although he still wasn't able to perform a proper Bushin no Jutsu, as the ability required such little chakra that he would need a level of control even better than that of a medic nin to do so. Because he would most likely not be able to learn said technique in time for the exams. Naruto instead was able to create illusions of himself similar to the technique. However, the difference was that only someone looking at Naruto himself would think so. When Sakura had asked him how he had learned such a skill, he only remarked that again, Tatsu had taught him. In the meantime, Naruto continued to work on all of his abilities. Sakura herself was becoming no slouch either. Taking the chakra spear concept further, she developed a whole line of chakra weapons. Most noteworthy among these were a whip, a shield, a barrier, a sword, a bow and arrow, and last but certainly not least, a gigantic mallet. These were limited to physical damage, but were still incredibly effective. However, this was not the only usage she had gotten out of her chakra ryu. Sakura had also figured out how to extend chakra strings. Using said strings, she would stick into internal organs and would often use the strings to bind, incapacitate or trip her foes. Continuing to build her chakra reserves, Sakura also trained often with Naruto in taijutsu, mainly in physical exercises to help build up stamina. They would constantly spar together, and even though they both worked hard, Sakura could tell that Naruto was holding back in their matches, especially seeing as how Naruto could for some reason nearly always predict her movements. Still, She was very satisfied with her progress. After another month or so of training, Sakura decided to cross the Rubicon, and surprised even Naruto by publicly challenging Ino to an exhibition match. No stakes, no prize, just a fight to see who was better. Word soon spread, and Iruka-sensei decided to make it a special event at the academy for parents to watch. However, it wasn't only their parents who had come. For some reason, several Junin, a couple of Chunin, a few Anbu members and even the Hokage himself had come. As was the custom for a shinobi duel, both girls needed a second. Ino had asked Sasuke of course, and also of course, he had turned her down. So instead, Shikamaru was dragged to the fight after having been hurt due to pillow taking. Sakura surprised many of her classmates, and even the Hokage by having Muhi Naruto as her second. They had discussed it before, and Naruto was adamant that Konoha should just forget the demon brat ever existed. The fight was about to begin, and both girls stepped onto the field. Ino grinned in a beepy fashion. "I'm surprised you even challenged me, big forehead girl. I hope you're prepared to lose." Sakura, her normally long hair tied into a long braid, just stood calmly. "Ino, I shall prove to you that I have become stronger than you can imagine." Ino's eyes widened at this confident, unflappable Sakura. Where was the crybaby who needed her help against bullies? Where was the girl who would constantly compete with her in the littlest of contests? In vain, Ino tried once again to shake Sakura emotionally. "After this fight, I'll be the one to get Sasuke-kun's love." Sakura just shrugged, and let a bit of her inner Sakura come forth. "As far as I'm concerned, you can have him. He's never going to let me in, so what's the point? He's an Avenger, sure. Well, Sasuke can shove it if he can't realize that he's not the only one who's had a hard life." Openly gaping now, Ino wondered if the Sakura in front of her was using Henge no Jutsu. Their referee, Iruka-sensei, was wondering the same thing, but couldn't detect any traces of chakra usage. Shikamaru, Choji, Kiba and even Shino all looked at her with surprise, then began to chuckle, respect earned from them. Naruto just smiled, proud of his student and friend. Tapping her foot impatiently, Sakura asked, "Iruka-sensei, are you ready yet?" Seeming to have come out of a daze, Iruka shook his head and regained his composure. Clearing his throat, he explained the rules. This will be a single-round exhibition match between Haruno Sakura and Yamanaka Ino. Any tools, taijutsu, ninjutsu and genjutsu are allowed. Killing is forbidden, and victory is gained when an opponent is either made unconscious, unable to battle, or gives up. There is no time limit. Are both fighters ready? Still seeing Sakura's unnerving calm, Ino nodded anyway. Sakura nodded in turn. Very well then. Hajime. Backing away from each other, the two girls started off. Sakura began by throwing her limited number of shuriken and kunai, not aiming them for Ino, but rather for the trees, stumps and ground around the surrounding area. Confused, Ino was distracted for a second, but then began to quickly form seals. Sakura finished off her weapons throwing, and as Ino began the last seal, she leapt using a chakra-enhanced jump. Ino stopped and threw 3 kunai in her path. Sakura quickly formed a seal, and the 3 kunai were embedded into a log. Kawarimi. Ino barely registered the sound of footsteps before she heard a shout. Blunted spear tackle. Quickly, Ino registered an immense sensation of pain around the middle of her body. Vaguely seeing in her disoriented state that Sakura had what appeared to be a battering ram made of chakra around her arm, and said ram had knocked her for a loop. Painfully landing on her front, Ino began to use her hands in hopes of getting up. On her hands and knees, Ino vaguely noticed a trickle of blood come down her mouth and slowly began to get up. Sakura was nowhere to found, and thankful for the reprieve, she used Bushin no Jutsu in an effort to distract Sakura and gain time to rest. However, after about 5 minutes, Sakura leapt out of a tree, and her aura flared. To her horror, Ino noticed that around Sakura were 6 chakra strings, all attached to the weapons she had thrown earlier. However, what truly alarmed Ino was that said strings went through 6 of her body's vital points, connected to the shuriken on the other side, meaning that if Sakura pulled out the shuriken and kunai she had used, there was a good chance that she could die. "Ino, I do not wish to hurt you. Please, give up." Sighing, and realizing that Sakura looked barely winded, Ino raised her hand. Yamanaka Ino, give up. Sighing in relief, Iruka-sensei gave a proud smile. Winner, Haruno Sakura. The crowd, who had looked in astonishment for almost the entire fight, cheered loudly, clapping at the success of the incredible, and yet almost unheard of, female ninja Haruno Sakura. Remembering certain pearls of wisdom Naruto had shared from his ever-so-mysterious sensei, Sakura walked forward and helped Ino to her feet. Then she extended a hand. Good match, Ino-chan. Gaping again, but giving a small smile, Ino shook her hand. Sakura-chan, how did you get so strong? She asked. Smiling wanly, Sakura replied. Everyone has the potential to be strong, Ino. I just had someone point me the way, and it helped more than I could have imagined. Who pointed the way? Ino asked in surprise. Sakura just pointed to a beaming Naruto in the crowd. Muhi Naruto. The silent guy. Yes, you might want to talk with him sometime. He has things to say you might be interested in listening to. Sakura ended the conversation. While this was going on, the crowd commented. Sakura suddenly seems a lot prettier than before. Wonder how she got so strong. Hiba remarked grinning. Yeah, I thought Ino would have beaten her for sure, Shikamaru. See, Hoji said through a mouthful of his favorite black kettle chips. Sigh. Women are troublesome, but I guess Sakura is a little less troublesome now. The planning behind that trap was good. Guess who said that? Yes, her coordination impressed me. Shino surprised nearly everyone by saying more than 3 words. And Muhi Uzumaki Naruto just smiled proudly. In the meantime, 4 Junin were fighting amongst them with Sandaime listening in with an amused smirk. The topic of choice was who would get Sakura on their team come graduation, or in Maeda Guy's case, how to get a beautiful flower BLOS somming in the springtime of youth to teach his adorable students burning with silent passion. She could aid my ever-youthful student Tenten in controlling chakra strings to control her weapons more easily. Guy shouted for what seemed to be the millionth time. Yuhi Kurenai and Sarutobi Asuma just rolled their eyes, not considering Guy's argument valid. Kakashi, who had been reading his bellow. Ved. Ika Paradise Volume 6. 1 in hand is worth 2 in the bush, merely raised his head as if just listening. Huh, you say something, Guy. Guy's face went into shock while trying to figure things out in his head. The remaining 3 made their cases. Her chakra control would make her an ideal genjutsu student, and I could relate to her more easily being a woman. Kurenai argued. Yes, but I could train her in weapons usage and how to improve their capabilities myself. Asuma countered. Well, unless she dies from secondhand smoke first. Kakashi commented idly. I would be able to teach her a little bit of everything. Yes, everything about Ika Paradise, chronic tardiness and mysterious eating habits. Kurenai commented viciously. Sandaime, while amused at first, grew irritated. Enough of this. You are aware that I end up making the final team selections, are you not? I will make sure that Haruno Sakura ends up on a balanced team, like standards mandate. Is that clear? Ashamed. The Junin muttered. Hi, Hokage-sama. Having made her way over to Naruto, Sakura surprised him by quickly glomping him and giving him a tight hug. Thank you, Naruto, for helping me feel strong. Is there anything I can do in return for you? She asked. Naruto, feeling very proud and happy after having had steered one person in the right direction, and having it pay off tremendously, only said one thing. Could you help me make more friends like you? Although she had thought the request strange at first, Sakura realized that Naruto was severely lacking social skill. And didn't understand exactly how to make friends. Their friendship had come somewhat as an accident, but it had worked well. Seeing as how Naruto's method of pointing people in the right direction and working with her to help had borne them friendship, Sakura decided to use this method for other people as well. A good majority of the academy students were not strong, talented or useful in almost any way. While it could be argued that they needed said help more than others, Sakura could see that a good majority of them had enrolled into the academy for the wrong reasons. Nearly all of the kunoichi enrolled had, like herself, trained only in an effort to see or try to win Uchiha Sasuke. It was rather sad really. The only standout other than Ino and herself had been Hyuga Hinata. Her Shyness probably would make her a good friend to Naruto, she mused. The shinobi were in some ways worse. Many of the males enrolled were in the academy to get girls, kick ass, or in several alarming cases, had odd fetishes or loves of violence. The only ones that seemed at least somewhat dedicated were the ones from various Konoha clans. Shikamaru, Choji, Shino, and Kiba were the only ones she could see Naruto getting along with. So, she had all of them meet with Naruto and herself for coaching at various times, seeing as how they were quite interested in the boy who had gotten Haruno Sakura from merely average to low Chunin high genin level in such a short time. While nearly all of them were interested in getting better at least somewhat, Shikamaru was merely curious. Initially when he had met Kiba, the brash and loud boy had been doubtful that Naruto could teach him anything new or powerful. After consenting to let him use Akamaru in a spar with him, Naruto had proved to Kiba that while his teamwork was to be admired, his individual skills still needed more variety if he wanted to make sure that his partner could be kept safe. This was proven when Naruto displayed an insane amount of speed, easily dodging a Gatsuga the two had thrown at him, and taking Akamaru out quickly with a devastating heel drop. Naruto then proceeded to take Kiba himself out using an uppercut on the quickly speeding Kiba head-on, finishing with a brutal roundhouse kick to the face. Humbled, Kiba decided that asking for help wouldn't kill him, especially when Naruto, almost eternally silent, asked but one question. Akamaru is your friend Kiba. Don't you want to make sure he's protected? The next day, Kiba did in fact ask Naruto if he had any advice. The boy just smiled again, and gave Kiba a scroll with his name on it. Enclosed was a list of suggestions that Kiba could tell much thought was put into. Some of these included, Tip 1. The cornerstone of a shinobi is stealth and that one surprise strike. I don't know much about improving stealth, but see if someone can help you with it. Tip 4. If the Inuzuka clan can use chakra to enhance their sense of smell, why not use it to enhance other senses as well? Hearing, touch and even taste have their uses. I wouldn't suggest eyesight though, as the Hyuga clan might get pissed. And try doing the exercises blindfolded for extra effect. Tip 6. Your speed seems to be quite an asset. Try to increase your speed by wearing weights. You can get some fairly easily at weapon shops. Tip 9. Experience always makes a shinobi better than just training. See if you can find sparring partners. Yes, partners, plural. More variety will make you a better shinobi. Tip 12. Your Suga move seems to indicate that you have knowledge with rotations. Try experimenting more with this. I might suggest spinning while standing, similar to a tornado. This may be able to deflect projectiles and other things. Just don't call the move Kaden, whatever you do. A week later, Kiba came in wearing weights, looking fairly beat up, but happy. Following him was the equally beaten up form of Haruno Sakura and the statuesque Muhi Naruto. As he took his seat, he began to put on a blindfold. For the last 3 months before the academy graduation exam, Muhi Naruto had become quite popular. The infamous student teacher impressed not only his classmates, but Iruka-sensei, Sandame, and quite a few Junin as well. While one might have thought that Iruka would have been jealous, he simply didn't have the time to focus on individuals that Naruto did. Naruto didn't teach just anyone, and he even once told Iruka he was quite impressed that he hadn't burst a blood vessel before. Iruka still remembered that day, as it was the one he realized that while Naruto was constantly silent, he was their #1 most surprising ninja. Naruto helped a fair number of people, and through sparring, exchanging tips, and, at Sakura's suggestion, going out to eat a fair number of times, he began to make good friends. Most of the students were only interested in him because he was popular, and usually he had only given them basic training scrolls with no personalized instruction. After spending time around his peers, Naruto slowly began to grasp how social concepts worked, and realized that he didn't need everyone to like him, just the people who he liked. Suitably impressed with how Naruto had aided Sakura and gotten Kiba to concentrate a little more, Yamanaka Ino had taken Naruto out to lunch, Shikamaru and Choji tagging along. After Ino had described her particular fighting style and abilities, Naruto had asked the two boys the same thing. Surprised that he would take any interest at all, Choji slowly, but gradually told him. Shikamaru sighed, saying it was too troublesome. Then Naruto asked if he liked to play shogi. Needless to say, the almost unflappable Shikamaru was nonplussed, but after several moments of awkward silence he responded in the affirmative. The next day, Naruto had given Ino and Choji personalized scrolls and began a somewhat rivalry with Shikamaru. Idly, the dear Razor wondered why he had said something so troublesome. At the same time, Hyuga Hinata managed to work up the courage. Of course, she was dragged by Sakura to ask if Naruto could give her any advice as well. After spending a sparring session with Hinata, he determined that her main problem was confidence. Simply put, Hinata thought too much during combat, and seeing as how her thoughts constantly strayed to how weak she was considered, Naruto decided on a different way of teaching for her. These sessions mainly focused on teaching Hinata meditation and methods of focus, as he had no idea how to improve on her confidence. After many of these lessons, Hinata began to spar with her classmates, and after many near wins, and several wins, her confidence began to slowly and gradually improve. After a smiling Hinata had to LD this to Naruto and thanked him for doing so, he could only look nonplussed and dumbly agree. Naruto did enjoy the occasional game of shogi, but his other habits were somewhat strange for those who didn't know him very well. Whenever he wasn't studying, training or sleeping, he nearly always read manga. On a survival exercise they had undergone, he had once packed his entire backpack full of manga. As he was getting interested in 5 different stories, he enjoyed movies and liked good food. Naruto at this point wasn't a ramen addict, as Tatsu-sensei had beaten that habit out of him, not literally, around his 9th birthday. The last person he had been asked for help from, namely Shino, he had had trouble figuring out what kind of advice to give. After a long sparring session, the two had gone off for several days. When they came back, they had seen Shino give the boy a bow on his hands and knees, with Naruto looking embarrassed. As for Uchiha Sasuke, well, if he had ever asked, Naruto might have considered giving some help. He hadn't though, and Naruto's friends were surprised that when they had asked him about it, it was the first time they had actively seen any kind of dislike on the student-teacher's face. Naruto himself continued to work on everything he knew, and also started to learn sealing, now that his chakra control was better. It started when he asked Ka-sensei for a book on making exploding tags, and interested in the subject, he continued from there. Finally, the day came. The academy exams were to be taken that morning. However, the Junin sensei who were to pick students from the graduates had become perplexed after realizing that said students were no longer the people the Junin sensei had assumed. So, at Sandame's request, and because of the success of Sakura's match months ago, something special was to happen after the exams had finished. The graduates were to have an exhibition tournament. The prize, an extremely rare Raiden Jutsu, and rumors abounded of a personal lesson with Hokage-sama himself. Exhibition matches. Naruto PWNS Sasuke. Disclaimer. I don't own Naruto unfortunately, because if I did I would have had another Chunin exam, Kishimoto. You sell out baka, and I don't own Ranma 1/2. I also don't own the place I live, the clothes I wear, or the food I eat. The day of the exhibition match had finally come. As expected, none of Naruto's friends had any trouble passing the Genin exam itself. Thanks to Naruto's tips on chakra control, the 3 jutsu specialties, and shinobi fundamentals, his friends had ally found the basic Bushin no jutsu to be much easier than they had expected. As for Naruto himself, his ability to implant false illusions into the minds of others had worked like a charm. Uruka Ha-D thought it was odd that he felt a small tingle in the back of his brain, but proudly awarded his fellow teacher a hit IEH. Naruto had felt it odd that nearly everyone in the class had passed, and was surprised at the ease of the test. While resting in a playground to prepare for the exhibition, he began to puzzle out the answer as to why. Then Naruto remembered what he had learned about the various wars of the shinobi nations, and first-hand accounts of various battles. In most cases, the survivors were a cut above the rest and were usually described as people who could cut through swaths of ninja. He also remembered that Konoha's Junin population was quite low compared to other nations, but they tended to have more legendary ninja than others. It was with a heavy heart that Naruto O realized that most genin who didn't show quite a bit of potential in Konoha became what Tatsu-sensei had called cannon fodder. They were meant to be used as foot soldiers, and also to help contribute to the ninja economy by learning alternative trades. Naruto recalled that genin skilled in chakra control, for example, used chakra in sewing. It could also be used in cooking, gardening or blacksmithing, to name a few. Those who weren't satisfied with such a life often became apprentice samurai in hopes of becoming one of the few sworn to the daimyo of various nations. While the samurai were not quite as powerful as the ninja, they far outnumbered ninja and could use chakra to a limited extent. Although, Naruto mused, maybe such professions were needed for some people. After all, it was difficult in and of itself to survive, let alone stay sane in the dark world of the ninja. Clearing his head, Naruto realized that the competition had already started. He took a quick glance to the standings board which the academy teacher Suzume was keeping track of. Glancing quickly, Naruto noticed that all of his friends had made it to the next rounds, and Sasuke was currently set to fight. Naruto closed his eyes disinterestedly, making sure to listen for the whistle signaling the end of the match. Being an exhibition, the tournament was meant to be quick and the rules weren't much different from Sakura's match with Ino all those months ago. The only real difference was that with the help of an earth jutsu, a ring had been put up, and if a person landed outside of the ring, they would lose. Of course, every student was participating in the matches, but Naruto knew that the first and second rounds would be a joke. His friends wouldn't fight each other until the third round, and he knew that most of them could take out the other genin with little effort. Naturally, Naruto had confidence in himself, but he was more worried about his friends than about himself. Naruto heard the whistle that signaled the end of the match about 20 seconds later, and slowly began to walk up. He glanced at Suzume, and the teacher gave him a wan smile. The academy sensei had been pleased with his efforts to help students, as even in the worst students there was slight improvement in at least one area. Smiling back, Naruto stepped into the ring with one of the few students who hadn't ever spoken to him. A girl whom he recalled Ino telling him had bullied Sakura and others. Amy something. Iruka, who was acting as the referee, lowered his raised hand. Hajime. Neither of the two students did anything for a few seconds. Amy grinned confidently, waiting for Naruto to make the first move. Hey, this guy fancies himself a teacher, does he? Probably a geek. Should be easy. Rather than moving, Naruto spoke. I hear from Ino-san that you are a bully, Amy-san. Well, let me tell you. And slight aura of power was released from the boy and Amy felt herself beginning to feel fear, gradually feeling more fear as he went on. I dislike bullies. The instant Naruto finished speaking he exploded into action. In fact, he moved so quickly Iruka could barely see what had happened next. Naruto leapt like a torpedo and buried his fist into Ami's stomach. The power in the thrust launched her forward and Amy flew backward into a tree with such force that an Amy-shaped hole appeared in the next few seconds. The crowd looked at Naruto with wide eyes and jaws on the floor. Regaining his composure after a few seconds, Iruka made the proclamation. Winner, Muhi Naruto. Watching on the other side, Uchiha Sasuke's eyes widened, and he smiled in a sort of lustful excitement. If I can beat Naruto, I'm one step closer to him. The next round happened just as Naruto had predicted. He and his friends had no trouble dispatching the other students they were facing, even if Shikamaru had spent most of his fight sleeping in a nearby tree. The audience got a good laugh out of that, especially when the shadow user had asked, "Morning already?" In the third round, however, things became interesting. It started with a fight much like the first and second rounds, a nameless academy student being taken out easily by Shino and his bugs. It was the fights that ensued that were interesting. In the second fight, Kiba and Shikamaru had faced off. Kiba had begun to prepare himself, but before he could do anything, Shikamaru gave up, saying he didn't feel like fighting. Bewildered, Iruka declared Kiba's victory and Shikamaru began to walk off. Although Kiba began to get angry, a quick glance from Naruto had calmed him as Kiba remembered shinobi tip number 7, always take any advantage an opponent can give you. Realizing that Shikamaru had allowed him to conserve energy for the semifinals, Kiba smiled and walked back to where the last contestants remained, and noticed out of the corner of his eye that Shikamaru was busy dodging his angry mother, who was wielding a rolling pin. With murder or chores depending on who you would ask, in her eyes. Sakura and Choji had fought in the next round. While Choji had made great strides in his training, it was clear that Sakura had an advantage with all of the training she had undertaken at Naruto's side. Choji had taken the route of a wise shinobi at first, hiding in various trees and using Bushin no Jutsu in hopes of confusion Sakura and landing a crushing blow with his Baika no Jutsu, meat tank technique. While Choji had begun to learn the partial multi-size techniques, he still had trouble with them. That being said, he did manage just once to land a gigantic-sized punch. Unfortunately, Sakura had pulled up a chakra shield at the time, and with a relentless taijutsu barrage had won the match. In the fourth match, Hinata was paired up against Ino. Both girls had improved in the months since they had gotten Naruto's help, while Ino's father still didn't believe she was ready for the higher-level techniques of the Yamanaka clan. She had improved in all of her basics, namely chakra control, ninjutsu practice, stealth and weapon aim. Unfortunately for Ino, as Hinata had become more focused in her training, she had trained at a level only near Sakura or Naruto's. She had kept this training a secret for the most part, so it came as an immense shock to her father and sister when, as Ino was about to win with Shidenshin no Jutsu, Hinata repelled the jutsu with a perfectly executed kaden and took advantage of Ino's disorientation to win the match. At seeing their shocked faces, Hinata gave a satisfied smirk. In the final match, Naruto was to fight with Uchiha Sasuke. While Sasuke looked at Naruto with a look of excitement, Naruto merely raised his eyebrow and wondered idly if the boy was a homobipool. It wouldn't surprise him seeing as how Sasuke had continually avoided female attention, and once glimpsed what Naruto had guessed, in horror, to be a photo of himself, shirtless and working out. Or if the photo had been of Sasuke himself, well, he was not only a homobipool but was having a ego trip that had never been seen before. Even if his guess was incorrect, the thought still gave Naruto quite an interesting idea. Iruka had started the match, but neither fighter had moved. After about 2 minutes, Sasuke began to speak. "Muhi Naruto, you shall truly be a worthy opponent. You should feel proud. When I defeat you, I will be closer to him." Sasuke drawled. Appearing to be cleaning his ear, Naruto replied, "I guess I was right then. You are a homobipool." At this statement, everyone except Naruto stared in surprise for a few seconds. Afterward, nearly everyone who understood the statement laughed uproariously, especially Naruto's friends. Sasuke, who had gotten angry at first due to Naruto's statement, grew even angrier as he listened to the crowd's laughter. "No, you idiot. If I defeat you I can be closer to my brother's level." Sasuke bit out. Naruto seemed to stare in surprise. "Wow, I knew you were a homobipool, but incest too. The Uchiha clan was really messed up." The last few words were said in a slow drawl, much like someone from our world would hear from someone using drugs. The crowd, amazed that Naruto was not afraid to bring up a subject as touchy to the Uchiha survivor as Itachi, stood surprised, but then roared with laughter again. For Sasuke, this was the final straw. With amazing speed for a genin, Sasuke charged Naruto with a punch. Displaying incredible reflexes, Naruto dodged the attack easily. Sasuke continued his barrage, constantly trying to land a hit on the blonde, but never landing a blow. If one looked closely, and had experience with chakra control, they would notice a dark blue aura surrounding Naruto, his face so impassive one might mistake him for Shino. Maeda Guy, who had come after witnessing Sakura's fight, was one of the few ninja who noticed that Naruto was leading Sasuke into a spiral, a potentially suicidal move. However, Guy could tell that something else was about to occur. Finally Naruto reached the center of the spiral, and stopped. Confident, yet still angry, Sasuke charged forward. However, before he could finish, Naruto quickly thrust his fist upwards in an uppercut. The results were nothing short of amazing. The only one who was able to hear what Naruto called before the attack had been Guy. But the phrase ended up leaving him with even more questions, if possible. "Hear you. Shoten, ha!" A tornado exploded forth, and Sasuke began to blast upwards. Nearly everyone in the crowd who hadn't T fainted was hanging onto something in an attempt not to be beeped into the towering cyclone. At the same time, Sasuke was being viciously torn by the winds within the cyclone, and at the apex of the tornado almost passed out from lack of air. The winds died down, and Sasuke, barely conscious, felt an immense sensation of pain as he plunged into the hard ground. In shock due to the pain, Sasuke nearly lost consciousness as Naruto stepped forward. He only said one thing, but it made quite the impact on Sasuke. "Uchiha, the more you wallow in your hate, the easier you are to defeat. I proved that today." As the shaken Iruka declared Naruto the winner, Sasuke finally passed out, his dreams reflecting on the words he had heard. After the relatively unknown Muhi, Naruto had defeated Konoha's vaunted prodigy, Uchiha Sasuke. The fights that took place in the last round were somewhat lackluster. That isn't to say that they were boring, but after Naruto's incredible win in just one blow, the remaining fights simply didn't come close to that level of excitement. Shino and Kiba had fought first in the semifinals. It was clear in this match that Kiba had improved, as he never went for Shino's bug clones, always seeming to know which was the real Shino. This was due to Kiba's sensory training, as his increased hearing had allowed him to distinguish between the clones and the real Shino. Kiba had also become better in speed, strength and agility. However, because he had constantly ignored Shino's clones, and their chakra-draining bugs, Kiba had soon found himself sapped of his strength, collapsing in exhaustion with Shino being declared the winner. The fight between Sakura and Hinata was almost as exciting as Naruto's from the round before. Both girls seemed equal, never giving up any ground to the other. When Hinata used Juken thrusts, Sakura countered by dodging or using her chakra shield. When Sakura attempted a chakra arrow, whip or even the dreaded mallet, Hinata used her Kaden to deflect the weapons. The two girls stared impassively at each other, both looking quite winded. "I don't think I can beat her like this," Sakura thought. "I was planning on using this against Naruto. But I have to prove that I'm strong. Wait for her to strike, and then when she's distracted, throw the kunai." Hinata thought in turn. She carefully began to wrap an explosion note around one of her kunai. As if hearing some unseen signal, Sakura charged her fist full of chakra and thrust her fist into the ground. The moment after she began, Hinata put chakra into the note and threw it onto a patch of earth that was near Sakura. The effects were nothing short of explosive. To even Naruto's surprise, Sakura had caused a deep rumbling in the earth, chakra traveling underground. And finally coming up to explode the ground near Hinata's feet, blowing her out of the ring. At the same time, Hinata's explosion note had done its job well, blowing Sakura out of the ring as well. As both of the girls had landed outside of the ring, Iruka-sensei had been forced to call the fight a draw. Naruto would advance to the finals against Shino, right after the ring had been repaired. A 15-minute intermission had been called, and Naruto was collecting the unconscious girls, placing them into a comfortable position onto a tree. 10 minutes passed before they woke up. They opened their eyes hesitantly, and then widened after realizing what had happened. After seeing Naruto, they blushed, partly out of embarrassment, partly out of shame. Seeing their sadness, Naruto blinked in confusion. "What's wrong, ladies? Do you not feel well?" he asked. Starting, Sakura and Hinata replied almost completely in unison. "Physically yes, but I wasn't strong enough to defeat her. I wanted to test myself against you, Naruto-kun." Naruto blinked again, but then gave off a wan smile. "I know you did, and I know you two are disappointed, but, you know what?" he said in a mischievous tone. "What?" the two girls replied, almost in unison again. To their shock, Naruto bent forward, and beeped Sakura on the forehead and Hinata on her cheek. "I couldn't be more proud of either of you." Naruto glanced toward Iruka-sensei, who was motioning him to come up. "Sorry girls. We'll have to see each other after the fights. Wish me luck." Sakura and Hinata, still with faces the color of a fire engine, could only nod dumbly in reply. Before he could rush off, a voice and a long array of blonde hair blocked his path. "You didn't forget about congratulating me, did you, Naruto-kun?" Ino asked playfully, hands on her hips. "Of course I didn't forget, Ino-san," Naruto replied in an equally playful fashion. "You've made amazing strides yourself, I must say. And because you've done so well with such little time, I'm going to show you a little trick Tatsu-sensei taught me. Naruto took Ino's head in his hands, took off his shades, and used his sapphire eyes to stare into Ino's own glimmering orbs. Mesmerized, Ino only realized seconds later that Naruto was giving her what she had heard of as a French beep. Naruto disengaged the beep about 5 seconds later, Ino's head feeling lick. It was going to explode. She was blushing so hard. Wish me luck, Ino-chan. Naruto put his shades back on, stepping into the ring where a grinning Iruka and an ever-patient Shino awaited. If Naruto had looked behind him, he would have seen the rare sight of Yamanaka Ino fainting, and if he had stayed just a few seconds more, he would have seen the sight of a man with hair the color of snow walk up and catch her, chuckling. It looks like my little one has learned well. With a smile and a flourish, Naruto walked onto the newly repaired ring. Smiling, Iruka proclaimed, "Final exhibition match. Aburame Shino vs. Muhi Naruto, Hajime." Naruto was ready to spring into action. However, before he could even begin to make a step, Shino began to speak. "Iruka-sensei, I give up." A gobsmacked Naruto's eyes bugged out, only distantly hearing the loud groan that the audience let out. Finally, he regained his composure to ask the only question on his mind. "Shino? Why, how, what, huh?" Naruto said eloquently. Shino gave a quiet little sigh. "After learning that new ability you helped me learn, I started to realize that I needed to become more skilled. However, I realized, and my bugs have confirmed it, that you are at a much higher level than myself. Therefore, when I have more experience, we shall meet again." Slightly mollified, Naruto began to smile. However, he almost fainted when Shino bowed down on his hands and said, "Thank you for your help, Shisho." 1. After a beaming Iruka presented him with the Raiden lighting element scroll. And to Naruto's continuing surprise, a silver trophy, Naruto stepped out of the ring. As Naruto heard applause from all around him, he couldn't help but feel warm inside. He had already began to prove himself to the village. It was a shame though, Naruto thought to himself, idly looking through the crowd. I kinda wish Tatsu-sensei was here. Still looking left to right, Naruto paused and began to focus on a head of white hair. Jumping up using a chakra-enhanced leap, Naruto nearly fainted in shock for the second time that day. Seeming to go on autopilot, Naruto slowly walked until he reached his destination. Finally making it to the place he had spotted from his leap, Naruto noticed idly that Sakura, Hinata and a still passed out Ino were waiting for him, along with one other person. Said person gave a beaming smile. "You've done well, little one." Muhi Tatsu had come. Shisho means master. Highest form of respect anyone can have for someone, therefore it's shock. King that Shino of all people would say such a thing. Hiryu Shoten Ha Rising Dragon Ascension, a powerful technique in which the user makes their emotional state as cool and calm as ice, while at the same time making sure to get their opponent's emotional state hot and bothered, whether it be in anger or lust. Leading the opponent into a spiral, the user makes an uppercut to have the two opposing energies clash and explode into a tornado, using the opponent's own strength against them. Juken, Gentle Fist, the Hyuga clan's signature taijutsu, hand-to-hand combat style, it is extremely dangerous to opponents. Due to the Hyuga bloodline ability Byakugan, the Hyuga clan are able to see and push chakra into internal organs, heavily damaging their opponents and can even burst the heart and brain if enough force is applied. Kaden Whirl, another signature move of the Hyuga clan, the user expels chakra from all of their tenketsu opening points and spins like a top, using the rotation to form a dome-like shield of chakra, making it a supposed absolute defense. If enough chakra is applied and pushed into the rotation, it can also expand like a miniature cyclone. Baika no Jutsu multi-size technique, the Akamichi clan's self-made special ability. Baika no Jutsu essentially uses chakra to expand and grow body parts. While at first Choji can only expand his stomach, and later, individual parts of his body. The end result is a technique which makes the user into a giant if mastered properly. Partying, promotions and tardy teachers. Disclaimer. I don't own Naruto, and I, unfortunately don't own the rights to Inuyasha, Hajime no Ippo, Ranma 1/2, Mahou Sensei Negima, Rurouni Kenshin, and countless other anime series that ended much too soon. After a beaming Iruka present, fed him with the radiant lighting element scroll, and to Naruto's continuing surprise, a silver trophy, Naruto stepped out of the ring. As Naruto heard applause from all around him, he couldn't help but feel warm inside. He had already began to prove himself to the village. It was a shame though, Naruto thought to himself, idly looking through the crowd. I kinda wish Tatsu-sensei was here. Still looking left to right, Naruto paused and began to focus on a head of white hair. Jumping up using a chakra-enhanced leap, Naruto nearly fainted in shock for the second time that day. Seeming to go on autopilot, Naruto slowly walked until he reached his destination. Finally making it to the place he had spotted from his leap, Naruto noticed idly that Sakura, Hinata and a still passed out Ino were waiting for him. Along with one other person. Said person gave a beaming smile. You've done well, little one. Muhi Tatsu had come. Tears nearly welling in his eyes, Naruto gave a pleased shout of Tatsu-sensei, and leapt into the arms of his smiling sensei. Tatsu let out a grunt of surprise, and quickly straightened himself out, the boy having given him a warm hug. Tatsu-sensei, you came. Even though you were on that trip you still came, Naruto said softly. Of course I would, little one. You're my precious person after all. Tatsu said in turn, I always support my precious people. Sakura, having finally gotten out of her beep-induced shock, finally realized what she had heard, and gave a gasp. Wait a minute, you're Muhi Tatsu. The Muhi Tatsu. Putting Naruto down, Tatsu raised an eyebrow. Well, I don't know any other Muhi Tatsus, so I suppose I am, even though I am not aware of the Tatsu you refer to. Getting a little irritated, Sakura replied. Naruto's sensei, gee, you Ardian and the man who took care of him for a good portion of his life. She bit out. Giving a delighted little smile, Tatsu responded. Oh yes, that's me all right. I suppose you were expecting something else, I imagine. A monk maybe. Sakura gave Tatsu a sheepish look, confirming his suspicions. Wanting to save the girl some embarrassment, Tatsu decided to ask a question in turn. So who might you be, young lady? Might you be Haruno Sakura-san? Yes. How did you know? Sakura asked in surprise. Tatsu put an arm against what appeared to be a slightly embarrassed Naruto. Little on. Here often talks about you in his letters to me. In fact, he talks about you quite a lot. While Sakura's bout of blushing renewed due to this comment, Naruto seemed to become irritated. Tatsu-sensei, those letters were private. Don't go blabbing everything you hear. He yelled. Tatsu smirked. But little one, where would the fun in that be? Ignoring Tatsu, Naruto kept talking. And another thing, why do you still call me little? I'm almost as tall as you now. Tatsu's smirk grew. Oh but Naruto-chan, you'll always be my little one. If you insist though, I suppose, Kuzu, would be okay too. Sighing at knowing that was the best he was going to get, Naruto noticed that all of his friends were beginning to walk home, and asked them all to gather around. Curious, the 8 genin complied. Naruto, seeing that everyone had come, asked a very important question. Everyone, do you all want to celebrate tonight with Tatsu-sensei and I? Well, at least important to him. All of his friends, even Shino, seemed to get slightly sad at the question. They all explained to him that they all had prior celebrations or engagements to go to. Some had family dinners, others had clan initiation rituals. And Shikamaru simply wasn't there. Seeing his little one disappointed, Tatsu asked if they had anything planned in 3 days, making the genin perform a double take. After talking amongst themselves, in fact none of them did have anything planned for that day. Then it's settled. We'll all go out to celebrate your graduation in 3 days. Tatsu concluded, bidding his now happier friends goodbye. Naruto looked at Tatsu with a grateful expression, to which Tatsu only smiled again. He took Naruto's hand and began to walk away, but not before a panting Iruka-sensei came up. He informed Naruto that in fact, there was a personal training session scheduled for him with Sandaime Hokage in the next week, scheduled 5 days from then, proving yet again that Sandaime knows all with his crystal ball of power. Naruto thanked Iruka, and Tatsu yet again took his hand. Beginning to walk, Naruto voiced an unspoken thought. Tatsu-sensei, why did you ask my friends to come in 3 days rather than 2 or 1? Tatsu gave a chuckle. Well, I imagine after the celebration we will be having, we're going to need an extra day or 2 to sleep. Indeed, as Tatsu had predicted, no one saw hide or hair of Naruto or his teacher in the next 2 days. Even then, when they had come back, the two still looked as if they could sleep for a week. The pair not only looked tired, with bags beginning to form on their eyes, but also were covered in chicken feathers, tar, goat fur, and what appeared to be cheese fondue. After the genin had come across the messy pair, no one objected when Naruto tiredly asked if they could hold the celebration off for another day. Of course, that was after they managed to compose themselves long enough to stop laughing and form a sentence. Even Shino. The next day seemed to have done wonders for the pair, as they appeared clean, energetic and free of goat fur. After hearing various suggestions, they all decided to go to the local barbecue place that Choji frequented. Looking happy at the size of the party, and especially at the handsome white-haired man, a waitress showed them to a rather large booth. They quickly ordered and began getting comfortable. Various topics were brought up: the difficulty of the exam, various hobbies, their matches in the exhibition, and foods that they liked were all topics breached. As the conversations began to die down, Tatsu gave Naruto a glance and took out a suspiciously bottle-shaped package. Naruto gave a double take and a wide grin began to form on his face, his eyes widening. Tatsu-sensei, is that what I think it is? Naruto asked in anticipation. Tatsu merely smirked in response. Hiba began to look excited. Shino raised an eyebrow. Shikamaru muttered. Mendokus, and Choji and the Kunoichi began to protest. Tatsu-san, I can't believe you would take out alcohol. We aren't 20 yet, even if you might be. Ino screeched. Naruto looked at Tatsu, and he did the same. Both began to chuckle and then eventually break into full-blown laughter, hooting and hollering while pounding the booth's table in amusement. Finally regaining his composure while his sensei kept laughing, Naruto rebuffed the statement. No, Ino-chan, Tatsu-sensei didn't bring alcohol. He brought something much nicer. It only looks like liquor from the outside, but it doesn't have any liquor in it. Curious, Hinata asked. So, what is it, Naruto-kun? Finally regaining his composure, Tatsu began to unwrap the package. When he finished, a bottle was revealed. It wasn't liquor, nor was it a juice. The bottle was filled with a blue-colored liquid that had bubbles fizzing within. The label read, Elven Fizz. Tatsu quickly asked for glasses from the waitress, and began to pour a little bit of the drink into each glass. Raising his glass, the others raised theirs in turn. Kanpai. They cheered. Each of Naruto's friends began to drink, and the reactions were amusing to say the least. While at first nothing seemed to happen, after 5 seconds began to sport looks that made them seem as if they had just come from some rather pleasurable activities. Nearly all of them had smiles forming that were not associated with normal everyday happiness, and Hinata and Ino could be seen with drool coming out of their mouths. Naruto and Tatsu, having had the drink before, were more in control but still looked happy to the point of insane. Even Shikamaru looked completely content, as if he was sleeping, not just watching his beloved clouds. And to think, that was the weak batch. Tatsu mused. After bidding his friends goodbye but not without a promise of more Elven Fizz for later from all of them, as Tatsu was the only person who knew how to get the stuff, Naruto's life began to pick up momentum again. Because he still had a day before his lesson with Sandaime, Naruto decided to take it easy for once, simply relaxing. He spent most of the day asleep. He spent the rest of the day taking a leaf out of Shikamaru's book and watched the clouds. It was rather relaxing, he had to admit. No wonder Shikamaru was so laid back. After that particularly nice day, Naruto spent his morning anxiously awaiting his lesson. After Iruka-sensei came to escort him through, Naruto was greeted by a cheerful Sandame, grateful for the reprieve in paperwork. Sandame looked through his personal scroll shelf, finally taking down none other than W. Had Naruto had read to be Konoha's scroll of forbidden jutsu. Naruto, while I am afraid that I cannot instruct you as I wish personally due to work, I can still do something for you. Inside this scroll are Konoha's most powerful and dangerous jutsu, stored by Shodaime himself. Because you have won the Academy exhibition matches, shown incredible talent and done a splendid job in aiding your fellow students through teaching, I will allow you to copy down the first technique on this scroll. Eyes wide, Naruto gazed in wonder at the scroll. I'm honored Hokage-sama. With shaking hands, Naruto slowly but surely unraveled the scroll, making sure to stop when he saw the title of the scroll's second technique. He hastily took out a scroll and ink brush of his own, and began to copy the technique titled, Kage Bushin no Jutsu. As he began to read the description of the technique, Naruto wondered why a technique that only made Bushin solid was considered so dangerous. While it did require an amazing amount of chakra to use, if one was careful they could avoid chakra depletion. However, as he continued his copying, Naruto read the section detailing other effects of the technique. It could be used to detail any training knowledge or experience gained and give that knowledge back to the user. This could not only be useful for scouting purposes, it seemed to cut training time into such small fractions that nearly any technique could be learned instantaneously if the user had enough chakra. With that kind of training boost, no wonder it was considered so dangerous. For a village that did enough stamina training, this jutsu could make them unstoppable. Not only that, but if such an ability were to be combined with Henge no Jutsu, well, needless to say, a person who valued CTICS such as Mugi Naruto began to salivate at the possibilities. Finally finishing after about 15 minutes, Naruto rose up so quickly that he almost had a head rush. Giving about a Sandame, he began to leave. But Sandame shouted for him to stop. Naruto, before you go, there is one last thing I wish to speak to you about. Nonplussed, Naruto only nodded to the Hokage. Inhaling sharply on his pipe, Sarutobi exhaled and blew a ring of smoke out before continuing. Over the past 6 months, many people including myself have noticed that you seem to be unusually intelligent and possess great cunning towards ninjutsu and what is associated with it. Therefore, because of your achievements and your experience as a teacher, I am giving you special status as an acting chunin. This gives you several rights that normal genin do not normally have access to. Sarutobi again took a sharp inhalation from his pipe, Naruto standing as if he was about to faint. These rights mainly deal with being able to teach your fellow genin when their junin instructors are busy with missions or other obligations, not being obligated to stay with one particular team constantly, and gaining chunin experience by leading genin teams on D-rank missions. If you prove yourself, you may even gain the privilege of leading C-rank missions before becoming a chunin. As an added benefit, you will gain chunin level access to the shinobi library, and will be able to check out B-rank jutsu scrolls. Naruto, now looking as if he would collapse at any moment, just stood for several seconds as Sandame gave a wan smile. Finally, Naruto got out of his shock and gave a bow, taking the Dageza position. Hokage-sama, thank you. Thank you so much. I won't let you down. Naruto beamed triumphantly. Sandame gave a chuckle and gave Naruto a pin made in the shape of a leaf. Pin that next to your forehead protector. Chunin and Junin are aware of its significance, so they won't protest much when you help teach or take out jutsu. And Naruto, Sarutobi trailed off. Yes, continue to teach and train as well as you have up to this point. Skilled teachers are rare, and the better a student is taught, the less ninja die. I'm counting on you, you know. Again, Naruto bowed quickly, and with a smile, ran out of the room. While Naruto was pleased over his new arrangement as an acting chunin teacher, he didn't let it get to his head, well, at least not too much. Naruto knew that the genin orientation meeting was in 3 days, and it was and that he would get his true genin test. Most people and even books didn't mention such a thing, but after consulting Tatsu-sensei and wondering why ninja were put into squads of 3, Naruto realized that they were made as such in order to make 3 people, 1. Because each genin was still technically in training and hadn't developed a full set of skills, strengths and weaknesses were complemented by the abilities of teammates. Therefore, they would most likely need teamwork to pass the true genin test. Naruto idly imagined that was why so many genin failed the true test. With the constant conflict that shinobi dealt with, it was hard to encourage any kind of atmosphere that was positive. While Naruto began to walk towards the academy building, he wondered what had happened to the seal trap he had set in the forest during training. Naruto had continued to research seals, believing that serious training could wait until his team was finalized. However, as he began to test trap seals, he had begun to get lost in making a rather complicated seal, and forgot that it would turn invisible after finishing. Quite worried that someone had gotten hurt, Naruto walked in worry, anxious all the way to the academy. As he neared the academy, Naruto curiously heard a few snippets of gossip. "Hey, did you hear about that Chunin teacher who tried to steal the scroll of forbidden seals?" "Yeah, I heard 5 Anbu had to attack him all together. That's why he ended up so badly injured." "Really? I heard he ended up somehow in front of a stampede of bulls." "Well, I heard he ended stupidly walking into a trap that set off an explosion, a barrage of kunai, a stink bomb, and a laxative." The gossipers all stared at the last speaker in disbelief. Naruto continued walking, a spring in his step, now relieved that he hadn't hurt anyone. At least, not anyone important. His friends greeting him as he sat down, Naruto slumped forward relaxed, knowing that no matter who he got on his team, at least one person he could get along with. He shared a glance with Iruka-sensei, Iruka's eyes widening and then smiling as he saw the leaf pin attached to Naruto's forehead protector. After 10 minutes, Iruka started to try and get the class's attention, but normal methods didn't seem to work today. Pulling out an air horn, Iruka was able to quickly gain the attention of his class and shatter a few eardrums in the process. "Alright, settle down everyone, it's now time to announce team assignments. Team 1. Iruka continued to assign teams, with students groaning, cheering or not doing anything at all sometimes. Finally, Naruto heard his name. Team 7. Muhi Naruto, Haruno Sakura. Iruka was interrupted as Sakura jumped up, pulling Naruto towards her and beginning a little jig. Naruto began to join her and everyone looked in amusement. Iruka coughed and the two looked a little embarrassed as they sat back down. And final teammate, Uchiha Sasuke. This caused a chain reaction to go throughout the room. All of Naruto's friends groaned at not being placed on a team with their buddy, with Ino and Hinata actually beginning to crack their desks, they were clutching so hard. Sakura groaned loudly, putting her head in her hands. Naruto, well, other than a slight frown, he didn't do anything at all. Iruka continued as if the disturbance had never happened. Your Junin sensei will be Hatake Kakashi. Team 8. Hyuga Hinata, Aburame Shino, Inazuka Kiba. The 3 teammates glanced at each other, glad they hadn't been given teammates they could rely upon. Team 9. Shinigami Kage, Nekomaiki Kuro. Hayuro Ryu. Team 10. Nara Shikamaru, Yamanaka Ino, Akamichi Choji. Ino let out a depressed sigh sounding suspiciously like Naruto-kun. Shikamaru did the same, only his sounded like Mendoku's. And Choji just sat calmly eating his barbecue-flavored chips. Iruka finished, and slowly but surely, Junin came to pick up their students. An hour later, Team 7 was still waiting for their Junin instructor. Bored, Naruto and Sakura began to talk while Sasuke sat brooding in a corner. "Nay Naruto, have you been working on anything new lately?" Sakura asked. "Yup, I've been working on seals, Sakura-chan, how about you?" Naruto asked in turn. Sakura smiled. "Oh, I've begun looking into medical scrolls they let me borrow from the hospital. So far I've only gotten up to small cuts and small blood clots." Naruto began to look enthusiastic. "Still, that's great, Sakura-chan. And in only a few days too, you should be proud of yourself. Can you show me how it works?" Sakura blushed. "Sure Naruto-kun. But first, you need to show me one of your seals. I've always wanted to know how they work." Okay." Just let me get ready, okay? And as a bonus, he smirked in an evil fashion. We can teach a lesson to our instructor about tardiness. Taking out a small bottle of ink and a calligraphy brush, Naruto began to quickly write symbols around the door. When he finished, Naruto formed a few seals and slammed his palms onto the ground. The symbols all seemed to become absorbed into the big kanji symbol in the seal's center, and when all of the little markings had disappeared, the big one did too. Sakura gave a look of astonishment. Wow, that was amazing, Naruto-kun. What kind of trap does that make? Although he couldn't be sure, Naruto-s he saw Sasuke giving a small glance in their direction as he explained. When he finished, Sakura began explaining the intricacies of medical jutsu and how they required an immense level of concentration, even when performing something small. Fascinated, Naruto asked her to elaborate and thus began a long question and answer session, Naruto asking about how disease was removed, brain damage was repaired and other things that Sakura herself had trouble answering but did her best with. After around another hour, the Q&A session had finished and all three genin were horrendously bored, Naruto's trap forgotten. Sakura sat down with her head on a desk, Sasuke still brooded in the corner and Naruto seemed to be sleeping. Out of nowhere, they heard a loud explosion and a wisp of air. When the smoke cleared, it revealed a frazzled Junin, soot covering what little could be seen of his face through his face mask, and hair messed up and tangled in vines that came out of what seemed to be nowhere. Regaining his composure, the Junin took out a kunai and hacked through the vines, coming up to them. My first impression of you guys is, I hate you. Having gone up to the academy's roof, the Junin motioned for them to sit down. Now I think it's time we all introduced ourselves. Names, likes and dislikes, hobbies, dreams for the future, stuff like that. Kakashi stated. Why doesn't the one who made that trap start? Kakashi's eye twitched. Naruto took that as his cue. I'm Muhi Naruto. I like manga, anime, teaching, getting to explore new lands, my friends. My guardian Tatsu, and Elven Fizz. I dislike greed and selfishness if they hurt others, prejudice in those who don't try at their own goals. Hobbies. Not much, other than learning seal making and watching anime. Dreams for the future. To help my friends and guardian achieve their own dreams, to get married to at least one woman, and to become Hokage, the #1 ninja in the village. Rather nonplussed, Kakashi motioned to Sakura after a few moments, thinking Naruto was rather interesting. I'm Haruno Sakura. I like my friends, training with Naruto-kun and getting stronger in any way. Oh, and I don't like Elven Fizz, I love it. Sakura giggled. I dislike the same things as Naruto and also Konoha's unfair clan system. Hobbies. Learning medical jutsu, watching movies and swimming. My dreams for the future are like Naruto's in helping everyone I care about achieve their own dreams, to find my soulmate and to become a kunoichi better than Tsunade-sama. I also want to help Naruto get rid of the current clan system Konoha is governed by when he becomes Hokage so we can help more first-generation ninja. Kakashi's visible eye widened, and then closed in an upside-down U shape, showing that he was pleased. Rather ambitious, but at least she'll take her duties seriously. Finally he pointed to Sasuke. Uchiha Sasuke. I don't like or dislike many things at all. I don't have any hobbies and dreams. Well, they aren't so much dreams as they are ambitions. To resurrect my clan and, Sasuke took a dramatic pause. To kill a certain man. As I thought, Itachi influenced his behavior. I can't honestly see what I saw in this psychopath. I think I may need to call the insanity ward soon. Kakashi stood up abruptly. Well, you're all fairly interesting. Meet me tomorrow at Training Ground 12 at 7 in the morning. We're going to be conducting a mission. Survival training in fact. Sensei, didn't we have survival training in the academy already? Sakura asked. This is a little different. Oh, and you should know, this is your real genin test. There's a failure rate of 66, so come prepared. And don't eat breakfast tomorrow. You'll get so scared you will not only throw up, but wet your pants too. With that rather unsettling thought, the three made their way back home, determined even if they were somewhat intimidated. Whatever it was, Naruto knew he couldn't think he would pass the test. He would pass the test. To be continued, and thank you for watching.